So have a greater than.
But I think let's not put this into if. Instead, we can change that 10. We can either set it to a 10 or a 2, depending on if the pixels...
Let's do that. What should we call that? That is sort of the modifier.
Sure.
And we'll set it to... I see what you mean. So we're going to move this code outside. And we're going to use modifier here instead.
Yeah.
Its execution is throwing me off. Whenever it executes it.
Every time we change the code, it's the playground.
It's reloading the image. So if it's less than sum, I'll set it to 2.
Yeah.
All right. Got that in.
Okay, so let's see how that goes.
Yeah, and we'll also get to see how many times it goes into the if compared to everything else.
So we expect it to be about half, right? Because we're comparing it against the average. So we expect this number here that's running to be around 6,900. Now, because the average isn't really
not the median,
it won't be exactly half, but around 6,900 is what we expect.
All right.
Okay. So
yeah, it is a different. I mean, we got a bit of the detail back.
Okay. So let's set this to actually 1, and then see if we get even more detail here. So the idea now is here, if the pixel is dark, we do no contrast increase.
I see.
But if the pixel is bright, we contrast increase by a factor of 10.
I think we can scroll down a bit to see more of the image. Right, it's getting there, and as you said, around half of the pixels are dark, which we won't touch, but we'll still do all the math on them. And there we go.
Okay, so the dark areas are the exact same, and the white area, the white contrast is now been amplified.
Yeah, so we're getting. Let's make it easier on our eyes. Hide this one, and here we can see them sort of side by side, a bit more side by side.
Okay.
After it runs again. But yeah.
That actually is quite annoying that every time you change something, it keeps running.
Yeah, in this case, it is a little bit. We could save out this image somehow. We can write this image to disk. But then that would be the only really way we can solve this. So let it run this last time so we can compare these two images more closely. All right.
Yeah, so the brighter pixels are now enhanced, the darker ones are not touched.
Yeah, so this whole part is identical, and then this whole top part is very much enhanced.
Yeah, and the roads are actually all white.
Yeah.
So you can, this is a simple idea, but just with this simple idea, you can actually come up with some very interesting filters that we can apply. One of the interesting filters that we can apply, maybe we should apply in this case, is to amplify only the red channel. So what we're going to do is we essentially only the red channel if it's bigger than the average red. So essentially, we're going to look at this set of colors, and only if it is actually the red is less than the average red.
So you have
The average red.
Okay.
So if it's less, then we amplify by 1. If, of course, it's greater, we amplify by 10. But now we're amplifying all of these, which we don't really want. We just want to amplify only the red channel, so we leave the green and blue. So this will create an interesting effect. So if you had someone wearing, for example, lipstick, which we don't in this image, that lipstick would really be amplified. So here, I don't know if you actually have any red shades, but we'll see some of the red colors being enhanced.
So this is basically enhancing all the red colors. So anything that is sort of reddish will become more red. Sounds pretty cool. And this is running much faster now that we're only changing one channel. Whoa, pretty red.
Yeah, so essentially, of course, 10 is a very strong number, so it's really amplifying these red, but you can see that it's kind of creating a reddish filter applied to the image, but only to the parts that the red is above the average red.
It's pretty interesting because you can still see the original parts, like these suspicious windows. maintained, but then anything that's a bit lighter is now basically red.
Right. So in the next course, we're going to be starting off here, and there's a few more things, of course, we'll talk about in this course, but the next course will focus on what changes you can do to the image, and then go from there about making a full app that has UI elements, that has controls. You can actually take a photo, and from there we'll put some basic filters in that you could actually modify an image.
Yeah, so I hoped you had fun here with these images. I know I did. And you can play around with this math. Like this is basically doing some interesting math that you think might do an interesting effect. And you can play around with that and see what effects you can create as well.
Now, one effect, maybe just before we go, of course, the app that we're building towards is the Shift app.
Mm-hmm.
So this has a filter, which we'll have some filter effects in Shift, but maybe what we could do is actually we could make the redness fade out depending on how far below the image you are. So essentially, we can make this modifier, which is 10, be dependent on the Y value of where you are in the image.
So that is super cool. Let's
essentially, we want let's say at the top for it to be, perhaps the top it should be 1, and at the bottom it should be 10.
Sure. So we want to sort of interpolate from 1 to 10 depending on the Y, which is very interesting. So we can sort of start from 1, and then we add 9 times the basically percent we're at in height.
So here, once Y reaches the height, you'll have 1 plus 9, and when Y is 0, you'll have 1.
Yeah.
And what is that complaint that's giving?
It's just Xcode being dumb. Because if it's running, then there's no errors. You guys should probably have a better time than us with this, because by the time this course is live, we'll be aiming. We'll make sure that Xcode 7 is available. And I guess it's not that obvious. I see it a bit. My math is like, I think I know it's because. Is this still an integer? It's still integer, which it shouldn't be. At this point, we're going to have to cast one of these to a double. Okay. Because we're dealing with integers here, it's going to truncate. So it was just not doing what we wanted it to.
But I think it actually was casting the Y divided by the height, so that was always set to 0.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't really doing anything. So just, again, be careful about the type of variable you have. If you want things that are fading, essentially, they do need to be doubles. Integers sometimes will give you problems, although there are ways of using integers there as well. Mm-hmm. So now our modifier is a double. Of course, that creates a problem here, so we have to essentially typecast it around here.
Yes, so we'll have a double, but we can still cast that to an integer, and I think that will truncate. Okay. Maybe it won't. Maybe it will run. Maybe it won't. I'm going to guess it's not running for us. But yeah, so we should probably round this. So we can use the round functions. So let me type to round a double back to an integer. And for some reason, all these rounds return more doubles. But if we round this result and cast it to an integer, that should work out for us. And if Xcode is happy, which it doesn't seem to be, and it's not allowing us to add.
Yeah,
right, so it's not allowing us to add this integer. And yeah, so when doing simple math, Swift does get in the way a bit with types.
So what you want to do essentially is, if you're adding, dividing, subtracting, whatever you're doing, make sure you're aware of the types you have. It's usually a good idea to make sure they're all the same type.
Yeah, generally it won't be this annoying or difficult. It's mostly because our pixels are 8-bit integers, which is very important. That is causing this sort of messiness.
Right, but okay, and there we go. So at the top, it's all white, and as you get to the bottom, it becomes more red.
Yeah, I can see it, but I guess it's not too obvious. But yes, if you go down this building, it's getting more and more red as it goes.
Right. You could even, I was thinking if you lowered this number, so you made this like a 4, so it's not as intense. Let's see what that would look like. So now this is not as extreme in the contrast enhancement on the red channel.
And we're still only doing this for the redder pixels. Yeah. Right, it's finishing up as we speak. Oh,
okay.
it's definitely more noticeable.
Yeah.
Right,
so I feel before, once you even got to maybe like a 6 or 7, you didn't have to go all the way to the 9. It was so much that it was just setting all the items to red. But now you can actually see it more. There's kind of a red hue that's this gradual shift down to this red contrast. So that by itself could actually be an interesting filter.
Yeah.
And you can use this idea to create many other types of filters, and we're going to do that. And again, later on, we're going to create a full app around this. That you can actually try different filters, shift different images together, so do a lot of cool things based on this.
Yeah. All right.
Cool. That's it.